Hey Run Junkies, not long ago I asked you guys what you wanted to see from this channel and I got a lot of great responses, so thank you very much. I've made some updates around here and I've had a lot of fun, but I did get an interesting question from a viewer. Now before I answer that question, I want to ask you to please hit that notification bell and subscribe if you haven't already, because we have a lot of great stuff coming up right here. That's my first one. It takes up a little bit more of my hand. 25-year marathon now. That one's much bigger. Probably about the same size. Almost looks like first perspective, right? Okay, the question for today is from Jergensen 0619. How do you PR the marathon? Sounds like a very simple question, right? The answer is very complicated. How do you set a personal record in time for 26.2 miles? It's an excellent question, and actually it's at the forefront of my running life right now, because even though it's March of 2020, later on this year in October, I will be running the Chicago Marathon for time. So Jackson, thank you for that question. And if you have a question about running, training, racing, or gear, please feel free to leave those in the comment section down below and I will try to answer that in an upcoming video. Now, striving for a personal best in the marathon makes a few assumptions about you as a runner. Now, technically, yes, when you cross the finish line of your first marathon, you are setting a PR. However, that is not really the spirit of this video. We are talking about going for time. Ideally, you've seen this distance before, that 26.2 miles. You've done it on race day before, maybe even several times, and you've been running consistently recently. Ideally, as a coach, I would like to see that marathon PR attempt come after about a year of consistently running at that half marathon level or so. And like I said earlier, you've seen the marathon distance before, but again, ideally for me as a coach, I would like to see that you've seen that 26.2 miles in the last 2 to 3 years. It's a recent memory for you. Other assumptions I'm going to make is that you're going into that 4 to 5 month, give or take, training cycle with a commitment to that training and a healthy body. That right now, as you're getting into that marathon PR attempt, you are not struggling with injury right now. Your race calendar over the course of the next 4 to 5 months during that training cycle is relatively clear of hard race efforts. The marathon is that big red target, and that's really your sole focus of your training. Allow me to share with you my personal goals on doing this thing. As I said, I will be running the Chicago Marathon in 2020 with the goal to PR. Real quick history, my first and only standalone 26.2 miles was at Rock and Roll, Arizona in 2014. Now, yeah, that was a while ago, but I have to say I'm really excited that I can remember this number because it's a beautiful palindrome. That time was 4 hours, 44 minutes, and 40 seconds. I'm not kidding. I think that's awesome. Now, yes, that was several years ago now, but in the meantime, I have seen that 26.2 marathon distance 4 more times, but they were always part of a much bigger event. 2 dopey challenges, 1 goofy challenge, and an Ironman. None of those were PR attempts. In fact, all of them clocked in over 6 hours, didn't they? Yeah, that's awesome. I've seen this distance repeatedly, and most recently here at the 2020 marathon weekend when I did it as part of the Goofy Challenge. For Chicago, however, I really want that PR, and that is my target race, not just for that training cycle, but really for 2020. So let's talk about how to train for that PR. First, you want to start off by making sure that the goal you're setting for yourself is going to be attainable within the 20 weeks or so of that training cycle. Be honest with yourself here. Start where you are right now, and how far do you think you can get in the next 4 to 5 months? Are you at a point in your life where you can dedicate the time, energy, and effort to the training and not just the running? We're talking about the rest and recovery, the nutrition and the hydration, and all of the things that go into doing such a big thing. I would ask whether or not your family and the people around you are on board, because of the dedication that that's going to take for the next several months of your life. You want to make sure that you have their support and that they're cheering you on all the way, because they got to live with you. training marathoner. So once you've determined that your time goal is within reach, you want to find a training plan that meets you where you are and gets you where you want to go. A simple Google search for marathon training plans will yield a variety of results. I'm leaving a few of my favorite systems in the description below. Most of these marathon training plans should offer some sort of sample week, what the average week looks like, and then possibly what the peak week, the hardest, the longest, the long run, what all of that looks like. How many weeks is the plan? How many days of running? What kind of strength training, cross training is considered to be part of that training plan? What's the philosophy of the plan? Like run, walk, run, or heart rate, or something else? And what level is the plan? Is it a beginner, intermediate, or advanced type of plan? Does the plan go by time or mileage or a mixture? Do you understand what the workouts are asking you to do? And if not, is there an explanation to help you out along the way? Some sort of glossary or coach language from the coach that designed that plan. Take a careful look at each of the plans. Is it doable for you? Does it make sense to you? Does it meet you where you are right now and get you where you want to go? Okay, you've set your goal, you've picked your training plan, and you've hit the ground literally and figuratively running because dang it, you are going for a marathon PR. And about 4 weeks in, honeymoon's over. You've set a routine, you're getting up earlier, you're going to bed earlier, you're starving, you're tired, and it just becomes long and tedious and boring, and you have so many more miles to go. Burnout is a factor. It's really challenging to get through just the training cycle of a marathon, especially if you are working really hard on speed. That's marathon training. There's nothing wrong with you. You can question all of your life's choices as you go through training. The thing is, you want to stay consistent. Yes, get up and do the thing day after day, week after week. And that training is going to pay off. Training for any marathon is one of the toughest things we do as runners. And when you start adding in a time goal, a PR, something that you've invested a lot of energy into, it makes it even tougher. You're gonna have some growing pains and it's gonna be tough at times, but just know that consistent work is going to pay off on race day. Okay, let's talk specific runs and what you might see in the training plan you've selected. Now, certain training plans have different philosophy from others, so you might see some of these and you might not. So you have a time goal in mind, right? That marathon overall time has an average pace to it. That average pace is not the pace you are going to be running at throughout every mile of all of your training. You'll be running some of those miles faster than that goal race pace, and you're going to be running some of those miles, many of those miles, slower than that race pace. Running all the time at that goal race pace is not how the adaptations take place. So the variety of training is what's going to get those adaptations moving. The long run, for example, might seem a bit counterintuitive. You're going to slow your long run down a little bit than what you expect to do for that goal race pace. Maybe 2 minutes, maybe even more slower than what you hope to achieve on race day. Doing so is going to allow your body to make those adaptations to run the long distances of the marathon. You might find in your training plan that you could add some speed into your long runs. So you might have some goal race pace miles in there in the middle, but probably not a lot of them. You could even try to hit that goal race pace mile at the last part of your long runs as maybe a tempo mile, or you could try negative splitting that long run. So as you go, each mile is just a tiny bit, just by a couple of seconds faster as you go throughout your long run. What this does, that negative split, is it allows you to conserve energy on the front end to get you to that final kick on the tail end, which is really important on race day so we don't go out too fast. We really want to learn that skill. It's the other runs besides your long run that you're going to be doing shorter, more intense speed work. You're going to have a variety of speed techniques to get you adapting to running for distance at speed. Two of my favorites are the 1 mile repeats and the tempo run. The 1 mile repeats start out with a nice easy warm up. I usually take about a mile. Then you're gonna hit 3 to 6 miles separated by a quarter of a mile in between each. During that mile interval set, you are going to hit half marathon to 10K race pace, somewhere in there. Now the tempo run is very similar, except that you're taking those recovery pieces out. So you'll have a nice easy warm up for a mile or so, then you'll hit 3 to maybe 4 or 5 miles in the middle there where you're doing a tempo run. Again, that's half marathon to 10K race pace, but if you're running by heart rate, that's around a heart rate zone 3. Then you finish both of these off with a cool down, by the way. So what these do is that you are running for longer at speed, which is helping you adapt to that distance at speed result, which is what we want on race day. Lastly, you might see some track workouts in there. If you have a training group that you run on a track with, they might have you doing 800 to 1600 meter interval sets. So you're gonna look for the longer set on the track rather than the 200 to 400 meter interval sets. So there is so much more to training to PR in the marathon, so much more than I've said here, but I do have a few more final thoughts. Race day, hydration, nutrition, all of that gear, what you're gonna wear, all of that is great. Start that now. Start that as soon as your training plan starts. Start dialing in that nutrition and hydration piece, especially during your long runs, because that kind of training is going to help you out on race day. Also, I say this a lot on this channel, rest and recovery are part of your training, not exclusive of it. The harder we work, the harder we have to rest. So we do have to find that balance of rest and recovery with the work we're gonna do. It's during that rest that our bodies are making the adaptations to what we did when we worked. So please, I would strongly encourage you that if you remembered nothing from this video, that the rest and recovery is just as important as the running and the workouts themselves. There is so much more to this topic though, and I wanna thank Jergensen for putting forth this question. It really kind of forced me into thinking about what do I need to do for Chicago. I will be including more tips as we go along as I get into training for Chicago. Now this comes out at the end of March of 2020, and I won't start Chicago training until mid to late May. So I will have tips coming along. Please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you see when these videos come up. If you like this video, guys, please give me that thumbs up. If you have a question you would like me to answer here on the channel, please leave that in the comments section down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Go find your awesome and happy running. So Jergensen, we are talking about going for time. We are talking about going for time. We are talking about going for time. What's my heart rate doing right now? It always helps if you turn on